All right, hey, what's up, everybody? Mike Lindsley back with you. It is 9 Minutes with me on IGTV, Facebook, and on YouTube. Be sure you hit me on Twitter at Mike L Sports and download my podcast called the ML Sports Platter. That, of course, is all over Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Deezer, the Podbean app, YouTube, and Tumblr. This video is brought to you by our great friends at Empower Federal Credit Union. Make sure you log on to empowerfcu.com. Also, a tip of the cap thank you to Hides of Liverpool, Bradley's Jewelers, and Barks and Rec Doggy Daycare. Make sure you go to Barks and Rec if you're in and around Central New York. Drop off your pup during the workday or for a short stay while you're on vacation. Barks and Rec Doggy Daycare, the official doggy daycare of the ML Sports Platter. Well, here we are. We are just past noon or so, noon one-ish on Wednesday. And we have one team ready to go in the World Series, and that team would be the Washington Nationals. There's so many different directions that I want to take on this one. I want to first start out by saying congratulations to the Nationals because this is long overdue. In my opinion, I have crushed Mike Rizzo as general manager of that team for making boneheaded moves, trading Lucas Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez back when they were in the farm system. They were their two top pitching prospects, and no matter what happens with pitching prospects down the line, you simply can't trade them for just Adam Eaton. I mean, you just can't, just for a guy who has a 4.5 WAR, those are your two best pitching prospects. You best be getting more than that. I have crucified Mike Rizzo for failing to get the bullpen in order. I have crucified Mike Rizzo for signing Steven Strasburg to a 6-year deal and a boatload of money with all those injuries. I have crucified Mike Rizzo for a lot of other things as well. But now everything comes to fruition. I was slightly wrong on Mike Rizzo. By the same token, I still think this Nationals team should have arrived in a World Series a heck of a long time ago when you consider how this thing was all built, all the talent, Bryce Harper, Steven Strasburg, all that sort of thing. But sports don't work that way. I get it. And on top of that, you have to kind of look at how everything played out from last year until this year. You'll look at some things when teams make it finally, they jump over that final hurdle, and crazy shit happens. Let's take a look back. Cleveland Cavaliers down 1-3 to the Warriors. They come all the way back and win. Chicago Cubs down 1-3 to the Indians in the 2016 World Series. Come back and win. The Boston Red Sox, 86 years of suffering and all that stuff, break it, down 0-3 to the Yankees in 0-4, win the World Series, end up winning 3 more cents. That's just how this stuff goes. Look at the Washington Capitals. All those choke jobs in the playoffs. They could never beat the Penguins. Next thing you know, they're down 0-2 to the Columbus Blue Jackets. They're down 2-1 halfway through that game. Bing, bing, bing. They win that game, win 3 in a row, beat Pittsburgh, and go on to win the Stanley Cup. When teams eventually make it to the promised land, when teams eventually break long droughts. Look at the Buffalo Bills just a couple years ago. They go 9-7, pound Miami on the last day of the season, but it was a 4th and long by Andy Dalton and company, the Cincinnati Bengals, winning that game that got the Bills into the playoffs. Quirky, wild stuff happens. And it's no different here with the Washington Nationals. You think about it, they went through all the drama with Bryce Harper in the offseason. Will he stay? Will he go? They offer him $3 million. He ends up taking $330 in 13 years to the Philadelphia Phillies. You think about some of the new faces with the Washington Nationals. You kind of wondered how some things would work out with the young players. Already got a real good sense that Juan Soto was going to be amazing. And we questioned the two big things. Starting pitching injuries, Steven Strasburg namely, and then the bullpen. The bullpen has been an absolute dumpster fire for years in Washington. All the playoff failures, all the playoff inept calls. This team started, by the way, 19-31 in 2019. And I know reading and listening to the likes of Barry Svrluga and Richard Justice and Tony Kornheiser and all the other people in Washington and national people across the board, most people thought that Washington was dead in the water. Maybe they were going to trade Max Scherzer. Do you remember that? Do you remember when the Nats were 19-31? And one of the big stories was, will they have a fire sale? And Max Scherzer could be one of those guys. And I remember saying, well, shit, if I'm the Yankees, I go give anything for him. But Brian Cashman won't do that, right? Because he doesn't believe in starting pitching. Why would you, right? In October, why would you? Starting pitching, stay healthy. Strasburg, namely. In addition to that, bullpen got away with it. And the playoff inept Nationals, you didn't find them, did you? I mean, this team was down to the LA Dodgers in the series. They come back and win it, and then they absolutely annihilated the St. Louis Cardinals. When's the last time in the playoffs we've seen St. Louis, maybe when they lost to the Red Sox in the World Series, maybe, I don't know. But when's the last time we saw St. Louis, a team that's fundamentally sound, a team that timely hits, a team that does all the right things, a team that's really great defensively, a team that's always well managed and well coached. When's the last time we saw that team fumble the ball around the field, have no idea what they're doing in any particular count? It didn't matter if it was 2-1, 1-2, 0-2, 3-2. It didn't matter. They were totally lost. They were lost puppies out there against the Washington Nationals. Complete and utter dominance. My next layer that I want to talk about is how cool it is for me being in sports media, having the opportunity covering the Syracuse Chiefs, being around the Syracuse Chiefs. Now they're the Syracuse Mets, obviously, but covering a lot of the guys that are who are on this team. Trey Turner, Michael Taylor, Victor Robles, Steven Strasburg. So cool. I remember years back being on the Steven Strasburg beat, covering it for radio, driving out to Rochester, downpour. They canceled the game. They scheduled it the next night. I drove back out, and it was unbelievable. It was like there was a major rock band, a major rock star in town, and it was a baseball pitcher by the name of Steven Strasburg. Got a chance to cover him. I remember last year, 2 years ago, I should say, with Victor Robles playing. Remember, he had that injury with his arm, and he was wearing that cast for a while, and he was staying down at the spring training facility forever. We didn't even know if he was going to be able to make it up to AAA. They thought maybe they'd hold him back and all the rest, and then just eventually call him up the next year. Well, lo and behold, he comes up and plays for the Syracuse Chiefs, plays very well for the Chiefs. You could just tell. 5'2" player, ran in the outfield like an antelope, could hit for average and power. This guy's arm was sensational as well. And I remember that last weekend, that last Labor Day weekend of the ballpark, having the time of my life as the on-field host for the Syracuse Chiefs, looking over here and seeing Victor Robles in the dugout for the Chiefs, and looking over here and seeing Vlad Guerrero Jr. in the dugout for the Buffalo Bisons. I was having the time of my life, but now you fast forward to this point. No Bryce Harper, no problem. Juan Soto, Victor Robles, Trey Turner, Anthony Rendon, who should get some MVP votes. It's spectacular. And the fact that I got to cover those guys is really, really fun. The final thing I will say, by the way, is about Bryce Harper. There's going to be a lot of talk radio garbage and columnists coming out there and attacking Bryce. See, all they had to do was get rid of Bryce Harper. It's not that simple. I don't blame Bryce Harper for all of the postseason failures of the Washington Nationals. I just think sometimes in certain situations, it's really, really hard to have a superstar, because if you don't win, that person gets a ton of the blame. When you do win, that person probably gets too much credit. Think about the NFL quarterback, right? Isn't that the most scrutinized, most difficult position to play in all of sports? It absolutely is. The NFL quarterback oftentimes will get too much credit and then won't get enough credit, in different circumstances, like in a loss, they won't get credit for actually keeping their team within 10 points. It's the same thing with Bryce Harper. I just think it was the best decision for both teams. Now, look, what a world Bryce Harper was able to, say no thank you to $300 million. What a world we live in to be able to do that. But I think it was the right move for him to say no, and I think it was the right move for Washington not to up the ante and commit to Bryce Harper because of the team that they had coming back with Robles and Soto and all these kind of pieces in there, and now it'll be interesting to see what they do with Anthony Rendon. I think this was the perfect thing for Washington to move on from Bryce and for Bryce to go start his own life and his own career somewhere else. I have no doubt that Bryce Harper is going to succeed in Philadelphia. He's going to be really good. Who knows? Maybe they'll make the playoffs soon. Maybe they'll win the World Series. That's his goal in the next 12 years. There's no doubt. But it was a good fit for Bryce Harper not to be in Washington. They learned how to come together. They learned how to play together. They picked each other up, and Washington gets an extra glimpse of the future with guys like Robles, Taylor, and of course Juan Soto. So hats off to the Washington Nationals. They deserve it. Mike Rizzo, I sincerely apologize for everything. Maybe you weren't as overrated as the GM as I thought. You probably still are a little bit. You got away with some things. You got a little lucky. But hey, sometimes you have to be lucky as well. 9 minutes with me, Mike Lindsley, YouTube, IGTV, Facebook. Thanks for watching. Congrats to the Nats. Hit me on Twitter. Hit me on Instagram. Download my podcast. This video here is brought to you by Timberbanks Golf Club, Main Street Host, and Bryant and Stratton College. As I always tell you, enjoy the games.